Another week of The Informer, another opportunity to talk sport, believe it or not, and the man from FNR, Football Nation Radio, Athos Sirianos, joining us to talk A-League. It's almost back.
It is.
What do we know? We're going to have something in the vicinity of 28 matches over 27 days or something like that?
Yes, so the season will resume and be finished between July 16 to August 31. Thankfully, one of the hurdles which was overcome was the A-League, the FFA and the Players Association was able to come to an agreement which would allow the players to sign short-term extensions until August 31, so that'll be around about the grand final date. So a lot of the players are coming back. I know Melbourne Victory have all their players back aside from Ola Toivonen, who we spoke about last week, and Jakob Poulsen, who's retired.
Huge loss to them, because he's been, no matter what you make of their season, he's been a real driver.
Yeah, he certainly has.
A quality player.
And Jakob Poulsen is the one who retired, but that happened before the pandemic. Wellington Phoenix is an interesting one. As of right now, they still haven't had any confirmation as to whether they can land in Sydney.
And live in a hub and play?
Yes, so they'll have to quarantine for 2 weeks before being able to get out and train normally. And then, of course, their first game back is against Sydney FC, the potential premiers and favourites for the championship.
I thought New Zealand, though, had eliminated the coronavirus.
Yeah, so they're living quite freely over there in New Zealand. They've done a fantastic job, but of course, due to travel restrictions, we can't go there, and at the moment they're having a bit of trouble coming here. A few of their players, as of this week, were still overseas, so guys like Ulysses De Villa, who was back in Mexico,
Yep.
He actually had his wife giving birth during this whole corona pandemic, so there was a lot of uncertainty around him. And Gary Hooper, who's done a tremendous job up front, had a few injury issues at the start, but he really came into his own. He was still in the UK, but a large majority of their squad, about 16 players from their team, is still in Wellington, so they've had a large bulk still together.
And we have them featured in one of the opening games of the restart of the A-League season.
Certainly, so they will face Sydney FC, so it's a real top-of-the-table clash.
So first versus third.
Essentially, and Wellington were a side many people tipped to finish at the bottom, considering they lost their coach, they lost their best player, Roy Krishna, Sarpreet Singh, David Williams, Andrew Durante. It was essentially a start from scratch, and Ufuk Talay, who's done a tremendous apprenticeship prior to this season, he's kicked off wonderfully with a brand new squad.
Hey, it's his first season as a senior coach, and what an impression he has made. You can imagine now if his team can finish as positively as it's played over the majority of the season, it will be some story to tell for all and sundry. Now, while the A-League is back and we have a date for it, we also know that the countdown continues. FIFA about to announce, I think in the next 8 days or so, which team will win the bid to host the 2023 Women's World Cup of Football. Everyone's been evaluating the various bids. We now know that Brazil has pulled out. They've been swamped by not only the coronavirus, but a whole host of other problems. That means that Colombia is available. Its hand is up. Japan, its hand is up. And of course, Australia and New Zealand in the combined bid. What's the latest you're hearing?
So we received some very good news, Australia and New Zealand, that of all the bids remaining, when FIFA did their evaluations back in January, February, Australia was rated as the best. They had an average rating of 4.1 out of 5, which is great news. The Brazil news isn't. It is somewhat of a concern, considering now that South America as a whole continent will back Colombia, so you can expect their vote. The AFC...
So all the delegates from South America, you can imagine, will go and want to see it played in their space. So Colombia being the host city or the host country, okay, that's interesting. Japan, Korea, what are we hearing from there?
Well, as we know, Japan are a powerhouse in women's football, and they're a great host country.
And they've just introduced the Women's League, have they not?
They sure have. They've introduced their professional women's league, which is a massive bonus for them.
Just in time for the 2023.
Just in time,
wow.
Absolutely.
They're very shrewd. Okay, so we're hearing that the Australian and New Zealand bid is encouragingly rated very high. Let's hope now that FIFA is listening.
Certainly. Well, one of the things that Australia has timed well, George, is the move of one Ellie Carpenter, who
Tell me about that.
At just 20 years old, she's had over 40 caps for the Matildas, played in World Cups, Asia Cups, and she won the best and fairest for the W League just previously.
And she won the title with Melbourne City.
She sure did. She was a fantastic contributor, especially in those final series. And she's now made a move to Olympique Lyonnais, who is the biggest club in the world.
Wow.
European champions.
Well, you can only wish her all the success in the world, because she's been magnificent. She's been a shining light from 15, 16 years of age when Alan Sturridge introduced her to the Matildas, and each and every year we've just seen her blossom and grow and grow and grow, and I think she'll get even better. Can you imagine having now half a dozen of our senior Matildas, I think, getting that polish that maybe they needed, and getting some more smarts, and maybe adding to that precious IP, that intellectual property that you need when you're a contender to win a World Cup.
Well, she'll have some stiff competition. As we know, Lucy Bronze, who represents England and did a great job at the last World Cup, is the fullback there she'll be competing with. So she'll certainly improve quite a bit over in France.
Competition breeds success.
That's right.
Competition is back in the EPL.
Yes, overnight we had our first 2 games of the season. The one most of us were keeping an eye on was Manchester City against Arsenal.
What'd you learn?
We learned that not much has changed for either side, George. Arsenal is still a bit of a rabble this season.
So the more things change, the more they stay the same, huh?
That's right.
The rabble, Arsenal, copped 3 goals. They lost a player early.
They did. David Luiz was brought on as a substitute and only lasted about 20 minutes before he was sent off. This does delay Liverpool's eventual premiership ceremony. They would have won it on Monday had Arsenal defeated City, but I think Liverpool will have to wait another week, which, according to the fixture, is likely to be against Crystal Palace.
Fantastic. As usual, Athos Sirianos. We know that you're a passionate football man. We also know that you love a number of other sports. We won't talk about them. No. But welcome back to The Informer, and good luck. Do you have a prediction about the Manchester United Tottenham Hotspurs game that pits two coaches, one the current Manchester United coach and one the former Manchester United coach? Any idea who might win the tie that's coming up early next week?
Well, I'd say Manchester United have a little more to play for there. They've got UEFA Champions League in their sights, and we know that because of Manchester City's potential ban from the Champions League, 5th place is the most desired in English football. So they'll be looking to really get a firm grip on the top 5. So I'm predicting a Manchester United victory.
And will Paul Pogba return to the Devils?
I think he's okay. I think fitness-wise, he's gotten a lot better over these last few months. So he could feature when the 2 teams meet.
Well, Mancunians around the world will be going, hallelujah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, mate. Talk to you soon. In fact, we'll talk next week and talk some more about the latest goings on with Fox and FFA. And let's see if we hear any more about the bid for the 2023 Women's World Cup.
Looking forward to it.